Last video, we went over how to sign up for a Zotero login, how to download the standalone application, and how to install the Zotero Connector so your browser can communicate with your standalone application. In this video, I'm going to show you a little bit about how Zotero works. So again, this is my Zotero library, and it is a little crowded because I have thousands of things in it, and everything's, of course, under my library. And there are also these group libraries down at the bottom. So there are two basically forms of libraries. There are your own personal library, which is stored only at your online Zotero library. So when you log in, these are the records that you're the only one who's got control of them. But there are also group libraries that you can create and invite people in Zotero by using their username that you can invite them to contribute to these libraries. I've used these for class before. For instance, here's the first year seminar for 2019, and they did an On This Day in History in 1919, and I had them add articles that were of interest to them to this shared library. And so when one student added it to the library, all the other students could see. And so shared libraries are very dynamic, and we're going to be using them in class. But right now I want to show you how simply to add things to your library. All right, so I have a bunch of folders in this library, but I'm going to go ahead and make a new one to show you some of the ways that you can create different records that you can use for your research. So I'm going to go ahead and click on here, create a new collection within my library. And I want my library to be, we'll call it sample collection. All right, so we've gone ahead and made sample collection, and it's right here. There's nothing in it. And now we want to go and start adding research records to our Zotero library. And this is where our Zotero connector, if we go up here, we again see this little puzzle piece right here. Right now we're on a website, the Zotero website. So like if we wanted to just add this website for whatever reason, maybe it was a website that we were really, really interested in. Maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was some website that showed you how to do something in that Nintendo Switch game that you really like. You could go and click on that, and what it's doing is saving a copy of this website to Zotero. So let's go ahead and look at our Zotero standalone app. There it is. There's the website. It gives you a web page, item type, the title of it, all the information that it can glean from the metadata of the website. You're like, well, what's the metadata on a website? Well, all digital files have some sort of metadata. And whether it's a movie or a still image, still images tell you what kind of camera was used, when the photograph was taken, what the focal length was, what the color space of the image is. So different types of files have different kinds of metadata or information about the file itself. And HTML pages or web pages are no different. And what Zotero does is it relies on a certain level of standardization in the programming of these HTML sites. So it's able to populate these fields in your database. Like some of them are obvious, like the URL. It's going to very easily be able to extract what the URL is from the website because that's how we find it. And of course, websites, if you've ever done any web design, know that your web page usually has a title, and that's pretty easy to extract. But how does it get this other stuff? How does it know that there's an author, an abstract, or so forth? Your basic website doesn't have these things. But as you go into other types of websites, they do, because they are websites that use databases themselves to display what they do in various different ways. And I'm going to show you a variety of them and how they work. I'm pulling up the New York Times, but this is very true of many newspapers. So the way the information gets displayed on a newspaper website is that these are all a bunch of different little articles, and then there's a style sheet that pours them all into here. And so, say we can go ahead and click on this article about Jacob Blake, rare survivor, center of police protests, starts telling his own story. So as we can see already, we've clicked on our article, and we have a bunch of different options here if we wanted to share it on social media and whatnot. But you'll notice up here, the Zotero connector has changed. It now looks like a little newspaper. And so if I go and click on that, Zotero is going to read the metadata from the New York Times webpage. And if we go and click, we see, aha, there it is. It read the metadata. It knows that it's a newspaper article. It has a title, an author, a brief abstract telling you what the article is about, although this is in some ways more elaborate than others. Tells you the publication, where you got it, the date of the article, the language, and also other ways to access it, the URL, of course. So in this case, it doesn't actually give you a copy of the article, but if you wanted to do that, you would have to go and, in the case of the New York Times, you would want to go ahead and print your article, and we'll go ahead and save it as a PDF. It's loading the preview. So here's our article. I went ahead and printed the article. I'm going to save that, and I'm just going to put it in downloads. And if what I wanted to do in my Zotero, I'll go ahead and go to my downloads folder. All right, downloads. There's my downloads. There's my downloaded file. I will scooch that over here. We'll go back to Zotero. If I wanted a copy of that New York Times article, I would just drag this PDF over on top of the record, and boom, there we go. You'll notice that it actually went ahead and renamed the PDF based on the record. So Zotero is pretty clever. So now I've got not only the article, but if I go ahead and click on it, I've got a PDF of it as well. So in using some of these steps, the ability to attach items to a record, I can have them in my Zotero library, right? And you'll notice that the folder that I'm highlighting is the folder that the record is going to go to when I click on a Zotero connector. Let me show you another example. WordPress. This is the Documentary and Oral History Studio website that I created for our oral histories. And so it's in the WordPress framework. WordPress automatically creates a blog WordPress, a blog format that's compatible with Zotero. So in this case, it's going to go and read the metadata on my page. You'll notice up here is an icon for metadata for a blog post. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Let's see what that looks like in our Zotero library. So we have a blog post, a title, an abstract, which in this case it just extracted the first, just like the newspaper article, the first bit. It did not extract the author name, but again, it tells you where the blog, what the name of the blog is, the date of the blog post, and the URL, so if I want to go back to it. All right, so that's another example. You can do all kinds of things with Zotero. Here is an image I found in Flickr of a beautiful landscape in the country of Colombia. Well, you notice up here, what do we have? We've got an image. I'm going to go ahead and save this to Zotero. And the name Valle de Cocora, and it's going and saving it to my sample collection. And we can see here, it's an image, the creator, Berenice, who is the artist. The medium is a photograph. It doesn't have a size because it's digital. And again, it has metadata that is relevant, right? And this is telling you what the library is. This came from the website, the photo sharing website, Flickr. And again, we have these different things already. We've been able to collect all these items. Had these been things that we were particularly interested in, we'd be starting to build a little library of items. And again, if we want a copy of that photograph, well, let's see, view all sizes. Can I download this photograph? The owner has disabled downloading of the photograph, so I cannot download a photograph of this. So I am not going to do so. But if you could in fact, I suppose you could do something unethical, like screenshot it and save it as a JPEG and add it to your library. But if you could download this, you could simply go, just like I did with the newspaper article, drag it to your record, and you could have a copy of that image. Some of the databases, like Jstor, which is available through the Loyola Library, will actually download a PDF of a journal article automatically. So I went ahead and searched for Stenonis, who is the author of your first article. Well, we go along, and there it is. There's our article through a purple, green, and gold haze, Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And you can see that this was in the journal Southern Cultures. Now, if I was just using this without Zotero, I could download my PDF, and I could accept the conditions and proceed to download it. And I could download the article, and that would be fine and all well. I don't want to do that. I want to go ahead and add it directly through Zotero. So you notice up here it says journal article. Jstor works pretty well with it. A little buggy sometimes. I click on it. It's not only downloaded the article, but it appears it has successfully downloaded a full text of the article. I think you're beginning to see how powerful this can be. I click on that. I click down. There's the full text of the article. All right, so it's not just academic websites that this works with. Of course, YouTube, it gives you an option. This is a commercial for Toy Story 3, but I can go ahead and hit play, and we can see that. Skip our ad for Disney Plus, and we have our content that we want to actually watch. I'll go ahead and add that Tiny Desk Home Concert to my sample collection. I go ahead to Zotero, and there it is. There is the lovely Norah Jones in my collection. So I've gone and gotten that, and I just love her music. And there are other things you can do. Worldcat is a really good example. I don't know if you've used worldcat.org. It's a database you can get through the library at Loyola, but you can actually get it anywhere because it is a free open access database. And I searched New Orleans Mardi Gras, and then just to give you a little bit of an idea of the range of things, here is a CD by Luther Kent, New Orleans musician. I could go ahead and add that to my library. Right. Sample collection, New Orleans Mardi Gras, the title of the CD. And there we have it. An audio recording. Title, New Orleans Mardi Gras. Composer, the band, the Dukes of Dixieland, and Luther Kent as well, his band and the lead artists. The label, the date. So you begin to see, it tells you where you got it. You found it in WorldCat. OCLC is a library control number that you can use it to find it in libraries and different kinds of searches. Just like the metadata for Norah Jones, right? A video recording from NPR's Tiny Desk concert. We get our URL, short title, Norah Jones. A couple more things real quick though in WorldCat, just to show you the range of things that are available. Here's a thesis or dissertation, a study in popular culture. The New Orleans Mardi Gras, the formation of the Mystic Crew of Comus and the Crew of Rex by William John Coulsbergen in 1989. He wrote his PhD at the City University of New York. If we want to add that to our library, we just, you see, we've got we have an academic cap as our logo, and we go ahead and go to our Zotero standalone. There it is. Item type, it's a thesis. You begin to see the metadata here is actually quite powerful. There's all sorts of different things that you can pull into your database. Now, again, Amazon.com, a really quick way to find a book that you're interested in. The Library of Congress website. The Loyola Library website doesn't actually work all that well with Zotero. But if you're looking for a book, say I wanted to add this Ireland guidebook to my library, I go ahead and save to Zotero. A sample collection. DK Eyewitness Ireland 2020. Wouldn't it be nice to go and take a trip right now, huh? And I go ahead to my Zotero application, and there it is. Item type, a book. Title, here we have actually quite an extensive abstract in the metadata. Publisher, the date of publication, the number of pages and so forth, and the ISBN number, which you can use to find a book in a catalog. This is unique to every book. Every book has an ISBN number. All right, so we're starting to really acquire quite a few things. In the third video, I'm going to show you how to do things with the Times-Picayune historical database. It is a system we'll be using quite a bit, and there are a few steps with it. But before we get there, I want to show you a few things in Zotero, just to sort of whet your appetite for the sorts of things you can do. For each of these records, you can go and make notes. So if I wanted to go see this, note, I want to visit Guinness Brewery in Dublin. All right, I've made myself a note. But if this was say, a book that you had for class or a journal article, you could make all your notes in Zotero. The nice thing about doing that is you've got it in your library, and it is used. You'll have it. You'll never lose it. So you can make notes, and 3 or 4 years later down the road, you have it there in your library. If I wanted to be like, say I had 1,000 records in my database and say, oh yeah, I remember I put that Norah Jones video here. I can go in and I can search for it. Oh, there's Norah Jones. There's the Tiny Desk concert. That says, well, yes, Nystrom, you only have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You only have 9 items in your library. It's not very difficult to find it. If I go to my library, which has everything, thousands and thousands of records in the thing, and I want to look at everything having to do with lemons, because one of the chapters in my book, last book, had to do with lemons, then all of a sudden I've just found all kinds of different things about lemons. Here is an image of somebody picking lemons in the Library of Congress. I've got the URL right to the image, and there it is, right? This actually does not, Library of Congress, ironically, does not have very good metadata, but I went ahead and edited it. I added it and added this record manually to Zotero because it was, in fact, so important to me. I went ahead and added it as artwork. You begin to see some of the power of this. One other thing that you can do is make a really, really great bibliography. And I know some of you really don't like, let's see, that's a sample collection. Some of you really do not like doing things like bibliographies. I'm not going to include the Zotero website. But what if I wanted to make a website, a bibliography of all these items right here, these 8 items? I just right-click, create bibliography from items. Oh, okay. Well, you have all these different types of citations depending on your field. We historians, we like the Chicago Manual of Style. I am outside the, cancel and put this up here. I'll go create bibliography from item there. Now you can see the whole window. I want to copy it to the clipboard, hit OK. All right, it generated a bibliography. I'll go to this. I did this before once just to try it out. I go ahead and paste it from my clipboard. I've just generated a bibliography from my Zotero library. So you begin to see there are really lots of things you can do with Zotero. It's not just a place to go and find sources and store sources. You can make notes on them. You can generate bibliographies from them. And with the connector in Google Docs and in Microsoft Word, you can actually generate footnotes directly from your Zotero library. It's an incredibly powerful tool. I'm not going to show you that part right now because that's sort of an advanced feature. So just to really quickly show you just kind of how this works. You can make yourself a new folder within your main library for specific things you are interested in. Say, I don't know, my first year seminar. There are also group libraries, which I'll talk more about later. But we'll have a group library for our class. And then to add things to your library, you simply click on the folder where you want it to go. Use your Zotero connectors, whether it's a blog post. Oh, I just added that again. Or a picture, or a journal article, a YouTube video. I just added that again. A thesis or dissertation, a book in Amazon, or even an article in the New York Times. It's that easy. And once you start getting the hang of it, I think you'll find that Zotero becomes this really powerful tool to save all kinds of things that you normally want to keep an eye on. You want to collect interesting things that you find on the web. I have a Zotero library just for interesting things that I find online, but all kinds of other things that I'm reading about. It's a really great way to save material because things on the web tend to get lost, and Zotero keeps you from avoiding that. So in our third video coming up, I'm going to show you how to use Zotero with the Newsbank historical newspaper database. And there are a few little tricks and steps. It's not as easy as clicking on one button, but it is actually quite powerful, and I'll show that to you in the next video.